This is Grow by Design. Are you a business owner struggling with the direction of your company? Do you hesitate, wanting things to be perfect before you take action? Do you question your strength as a leader? If you answer yes to any of these questions, this is the show for you.
All right, everybody. Today we are back and we are talking about something that I have become so fond of. Well, I've got a love and hate relationship with, but ultimately I became fond of it because I see the resemblance between it and business. And that's really running, right? Well, I guess totally endurance sports, but running in general, because it so specifically aligns with business. And it's very easy for me to see the inputs and gain understanding about what business will be like through all of the training I've done in running now, and to kind of see the progress I've made over the last 2.5, 3 years. And so running and creating a business is so freaking similar. And I feel like a lot of times you don't see this stuff in business, but there's so much stuff out there about training and so many things out there you can learn about running. And now I'm starting to make these correlations, and I wanted to share those correlations with you. And if you like running, well, cool. We get to talk about running, or we get to talk about endurance related stuff as well, which, you know, when you're in it, you can be a geek about it. It's pretty easy. And everybody likes to do what they want to do and go all in anyway. So number one, running takes so long to create an aerobic base, to create an endurance base that allows you to kind of progress in speed. That is so similar to business, right? So when you first start running, if you haven't ran a lot, your heart rate goes through the moon, and you're really not probably going that fast, or you feel like you want to go faster. And then when you try running faster, your heart rate just explodes. It can be so hard to keep that up. But over time, with lots of volume, repetition, and consistency, right? Same thing I talk about in business, consistency, making those small contributions and efforts every day. And when I say small, that's another very interesting thing that relates to business. In running, small contributions in running, you don't go out and sprint your brains out to create an aerobic base. You do a lot of zone 2, long distance, a lot of time on your feet, not high heart rate. And that can be demoralizing to people because it isn't fun, because they don't feel like they're going fast. And so to stay in a zone 2 of your kind of aerobic range, that is really, really low heart rate. That is not blowing up. That is not racing or sprinting at a really good clip at all, right? And so that's a boring, repetitive contribution to make that takes a lot of time, right? Like when I first started running, like 11-minute mile, I couldn't maintain that without my heart just going up and up and up, 130, 140, 150, 160. And now I was out in the heat, and my average mile was probably 8:30 to 9 minutes, and it's really, really hot. And I was able to stay under 140 for 99% of that whole run. And if it was cool, I'd be able to stay closer to 8 minutes at that same heart rate. And I would have never been able to do that before. But it took so much boring consistency to get to that pace. And now, if I want to drop that to where, okay, the new number's 7, then the new number's 6.5, or whatever that number can get to, that's going to take a lot more boring consistency, and not boring consistency over a day, over a week, over a month, but over years to get there. And that's the same correlation in business. It doesn't happen immediately. It happens slowly, and it takes a long time to roll up. And that's what people don't love about it. You don't get to have that immediate success. You don't get that, wow, fantastic necessarily results. That's why they talk so much about the hockey stick curve. You see nothing. You see very, very little gain. But then it all compounds, and it starts to explode with growth. But it takes a long time. No one sees the overnight success. No one sees the hours and months and days and years that it took to get there. They just look at the explosion of it, right? And so that's that cool correlation there that I see with running, that I think of all the remedial tasks are zone 2 training, right? Zone 2 training, remedial tasks in a business that consistently, like, people think that there's this magic silver bullet in business to do things. Consistently showing up every day in making an effort is 1,000 times better than the huge swing and aiming to knock it out of the park and maybe every once in a while kind of clipping one and not really creating anything. The consistency is what's going to cause the hockey stick. So that's the first one. Then in running, in my mind, if you get into it, and for me, started becoming nutrition to try to get leaner, to try to get fitter, to try to, be even in better shape. This correlates all the way back to my racing days of motorcycles, where the common thing that people would say is, if you put race fuel in your motorcycle, why are you putting garbage in your body? Because your body's the same way, right? The fuel, the food is your fuel, and it's what you burn. And the better the nutrition, the better the machine runs. And so here again, a parallel correlation with business. And I'm assuming you can tie this into any kind of athletic thing. But another parallel piece with business, nutrition, consistent, high-quality nutrition. Consistent high-quality nutrition is like consistent high-quality education, consistent reading, guarding what you put in your mind, because your mind is like a garden. And if you don't weed it, weeds are going to grow and they'll take over the whole thing. So you have to make sure you're putting in the good things in your mind. You have to make sure that you're constantly like pulling the bad and removing the bad and kind of verifying what is good and bad and what you need to let grow, because anything can grow in there and you don't want a bunch of bad to take off. So I see a huge correlation, and these are like the progressive steps I see with running. First, you start building this base. As you start making all that slow, boring effort, you're like, what could make this even easier? Okay, cool. I'm going to start working on my diet. And then finally, you transpire through all of these things, and you start really focusing on other things like fueling during an exercise to be able to perform even more. How many carbs per hour? How much fluid per hour? How much sodium per hour do I burn? What's going to get me to operate at the peak, at the premium level? To me, that's like mentors and conferences and any input from the outside being able to tweak and manipulate and help you excel your business faster. Because now, like these contributions I'm going to make when I look at like fueling, it's like, okay, cool. What are the levers that make this thing perform even better? That's something that when I look at a business where that correlates so well, or who are the people that I can stack on this thing that allows me to accomplish more faster, learn more even faster in business, where you could take 5 years to learn something. A mentor, a conference, something of that manner, a class might be able to save you 5 years of learning from the school of hard knocks and allow you to go in and know and be able to plug and play in a matter of hours or days. And so these are 3 different layers of running where I thought these pieces were so similar. And just like in all of this, there's no end in either of these games. And your fitness is a lifelong journey. Business is a lifelong journey. Education is a lifelong journey. And I think these tie together really, really well, because people who want to excel and want to be competitive and who are driven in an area really like winning all the areas. That goes back to the foundational 4 mentality that we're always talking about in planning, kind of structure that we talk about in GrowCom. It's not just your business. It's your health. It's your family. It's your faith. It's all these pieces, your mentality. It's all these pieces rolled together that create the total outcome. And I'm reading a book right now. I feel like it's called No Arrow Left or something like that. I wish I knew the author, but I'm reading it. And it's talking about ending life with an empty quiver, right? The thing that holds the arrows. And it's just saying like every day you get the opportunity to shoot all the arrows, which basically means give it your all. Get every ounce and iota out of a day. For you to get every ounce and iota out of a day and to get that full contribution in, that isn't just you doing your best at work. That's you doing your best at work, you doing your best in your relationship, you doing your best in your health, you doing your best with your kids, you doing your best on this, because every single day you never get another. There is no dress rehearsal for your life. When you get through this, you're one day closer to dying. And the only thing guaranteed is death and taxes. So buckle up, because that's what comes. And so if you know that's coming and you're not making every single effort to use all the arrows every single day, you're doing you and your family a disservice. And so I got way off the weeds here because I was just talking about the correlation. But as you grow this out and kind of extrapolate that correlation is on everything. I know that my life is a go all in life. I'm going to go all in. I'm putting all the chips on the table. I'm going to take the risks. I'm going to reap the rewards. I'm going to take the chances. I'm going to give it hell. And I'm going to run this business, and I'm going to see how far I can push my endurance, and I'm going to see how great and awesome we can build our family and grow my knowledge, because I want to be able to be the best of service to everyone around me. And I believe that that's what that takes. And that's going to take slow and boring contributions for a long time to all of those areas. So I want to share with this in conclusion to this thing I brought up, that you should find something that's active, probably, or something where you can learn a lot from that correlates to something you're trying to create, business or whatever the case may be. So you can learn some nuances from it that you can plow back into the other thing. For me, that was running, and now I'm using all of these things I learned, that consistency, that fortitude, that grit that I get from really putting myself through hard things and trying to find like where my breaking point is to see who I am when everything in me wants to quit, to then take that over into the business arena and do better, take that over into my relationship arena and, look at the problems there and see how they pale in comparison to other real problems. So hope this has helped you. Find something that you can relate to other things in your life and build both so you can learn from all of it.